All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to break down a handful of simple but really powerful habits. And I mean, these are the kinds of habits that, if you practice them every day, can completely change the direction of your life. And look, there's no fluff here, just real actionable steps that are actually backed by psychology.
I mean, that's kind of a heavy question, right? But I think so many of us know that feeling, that sense of being on repeat. You know the drill. You wake up, you immediately scroll your phone, you rush through your day, you're exhausted by the end of it, and then you just do it all over again. The days start to blend into weeks, and you can't help but wonder, is this it? Is there something more?
And you know what? This quote right here, this is the core truth we're digging into. Your future isn't decided by some single massive decision you make. No, it's actually forged in the tiny, almost insignificant choices you make every single day. So the stakes are pretty clear, right? Are your habits building you up, or are they the very things holding you back?
So this feeling, this sense of being stuck on a treadmill, let's call it the autopilot problem. It's that cycle where you're just constantly reacting to the world around you instead of acting on your own intentions. And this is the important part. The good news is there is absolutely a way to take back the controls.
And here's the key, right? You don't need to completely flip your life upside down overnight. That's not how this works. Real, lasting change, it comes from putting these small, totally manageable habits into place that create this incredible compounding effect over time. So let's get into the first set.
Okay, so if you want to build anything that lasts, you've got to have a strong foundation. It's just common sense. So these first couple of habits are all about that. Reclaiming control over your mind and your body, really setting the stage for everything else that follows. All right, first up, we have got to tackle the modern morning routine, or, the total lack of one. Think about it. Most of us wake up, and what's the very first thing we do? We grab our phones. And instantly, our brains are just flooded with notifications, bad news, and, most importantly, other people's priorities. This first habit is the antidote to that.
So, the action here is incredibly simple. For just the first 10 minutes of your day, don't touch your phone. That's it. Instead, use that time to drink a glass of water, sit quietly, and just ask yourself that one simple question. See, this single act completely rewires your morning. You go from being reactive to being proactive. You get to decide what's important, not your email inbox. You're saving your best energy, your best decision-making power for your own life, not for somebody else's agenda.
Okay, next up, let's talk about physical energy. I mean, we all have those moments, right? Where you just feel completely stuck, maybe a little lazy, totally unmotivated. Well, the 2-minute movement rule is a brilliant little psychological trick to just break through that inertia.
The principle here is so simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Motion creates emotion. Let's be honest, the hardest part of doing anything is just getting started. So by committing to only 2 minutes of movement, I'm talking stretching, a few push-ups, just walking around, you're basically tricking your brain into getting over that initial resistance. It also plays on something called the Zeigarnik effect. It's this weird quirk where our brains are wired to remember unfinished tasks, so it creates this little mental nudge to just keep going with what you started.
Okay, so now that our minds and bodies are primed and ready for action, let's talk about how to channel that energy into our actual work. This next section, it's all about how to win the war against distraction.
So, we're all told we live in the age of multitasking, right? But here's the secret. Multitasking is a myth. It's a lie. It doesn't actually make you productive. It just makes you feel busy while you're actually just distracted. The real antidote is to focus deeply and intensely on one single important task.
And I mean, you can see the difference perfectly right here. On one side, you've got deep work, which leads to focus, clarity, and actual progress. And on the other side, multitasking, which just leads to scattered thoughts and total inefficiency. And there's a reason for that. Every time you switch from one task to another, your brain pays what's called a cognitive cost. It loses time and energy just trying to refocus. Deep work completely eliminates that cost.
All right, so just like we need to control our focus during the day, we absolutely have to control how we disengage at night. Our brains, they just aren't designed to stare at bright, glowing screens right up until the moment we try to fall asleep.
And the rule here is super straightforward. Just pick a time, say 9:30 p.m., and stick to it. All screens away. And look, this isn't just about willpower, it's about biology. The blue light from our phones and TVs actively suppresses melatonin. That's the hormone your brain needs to tell your body, hey, it's time to sleep. So putting those screens away an hour or so before bed doesn't just give you deeper sleep. It gives you back one of the most underrated times for growth and reflection, your evening.
All right, so this next set of habits, we're going to zoom out a little bit, from daily actions to weekly intentions. This is really about consciously designing the life you want, instead of just, letting life happen to you.
Think about it. Most people just kind of drift from one week to the next without any real direction. The weekly reset is your 30-minute intervention. It's your chance to grab the steering wheel, switch off the autopilot, and start living with true intention.
And look how simple this is. Step 1, you just look back. What worked last week? What didn't? Step 2, you look forward. What are the top 3 most important things you need to get done this coming week? And finally, step 3, tidy up your space. Your physical space, your digital space, clear it out. This little ritual gives your brain a complete fresh start every single week.
Okay, now for a really powerful truth, one that most people underestimate. Your environment is so much stronger than your willpower. I'll say that again. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. The people you surround yourself with, they literally shape your habits, your energy, and your whole outlook on life. That means you have to design that environment wisely.
This chart really makes the rule crystal clear. Just look at how one single draining interaction, that's the little bar there, has such a big negative impact. So your goal is to counterbalance that. You have to actively seek out 5 positive interactions. That's the big bar on the other side. This could be anything: calling a friend who lifts you up, listening to an inspiring podcast, anything that fills your tank. It's all about intentionally tilting the scales in favor of your own growth.
Okay, we've covered some really incredible practical habits so far. But this last one, well, it's not just another action. It's a whole mindset. It's the filter that you can run every other decision through, and honestly, it might just be the most powerful one of all. So I want you to ask yourself this question anytime you're feeling stressed or anxious, or you're just caught up in some small petty conflict. Just pause and ask, from the perspective of my 80-year-old self, will this actually matter? Let that sink in, because the answer is almost always a massive, resounding no. What this little mental exercise does is it just cuts through all the short-term noise. It completely dissolves your ego. It silences that nagging need to compare yourself to others, and it forces you to focus on the things that have real, actual, lasting value. It's like a compass for living a good life. Because at the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. This isn't about being productive just for the sake of being productive. No, it's about building a life that, when you finally look back on it, feels rich with meaning, with connection, and with personal growth. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that change doesn't start tomorrow. It starts right now, with one small decision. Please, don't try to do all of these at once. You'll just get overwhelmed. Just pick one. So, which one is it going to be? Your future self is watching, and trust me, they're really hoping you start today.